Hello, I'm Maru. Welcome to my channel. Together, we will embark on an exciting journey full of unexpected twists and vivid emotions. Today, we'll tell you a story where money and power don't always solve everything, and where the most important things in life are far from material. This is a story about how the pursuit of personal interests can lead to a revelation, and how simple moments can result in profound life changes. Be cautious. Its plot will not leave you indifferent. Get ready for amazing discoveries and powerful experiences. Shall we begin?
Michael Adams was a wealthy and influential businessman in his 50s, renowned for his financial empire and impeccable style. Yet behind his polished exterior lay a deep, unspoken sorrow. For 25 years, he had carried the burden of losing his beloved wife, Catherine, who perished in a tragic accident. Every week, without fail, Michael made a solitary pilgrimage to the old city cemetery, where Catherine's modest tombstone rested beneath towering oaks, clutching a small bouquet of white lilies, a tribute to the gentle soul he had lost. He would stand in silence, finding the only solace in the faint whisper of memories. Despite his immense fortune and public acclaim, Michael's heart remained a lonely fortress, guarded against the world, yet aching with the absence of the one person who had once filled it with warmth. One cold, rain-soaked evening, as Michael navigated the slick streets of a bustling American city, his mind was heavy with the ghosts of his past. The steady patter of raindrops and the blurred reflections of neon lights offered him only a fleeting distraction from his melancholy. On impulse, he decided to extend his usual route and walk a little further than usual. As he passed a dimly lit corner beneath a flickering street lamp, his gaze was unexpectedly arrested by a sight that made him pause. There, huddled against the biting cold in tattered clothing, stood a young woman. Her appearance was forlorn and desperate. Her clothes were worn and faded, and she wrapped a threadbare blanket tightly around herself. Clutched in her arms was a small infant, whose peaceful slumber contrasted starkly with the harsh reality surrounding them. In a trembling voice, barely audible over the steady rainfall, she pleaded with passers-by. "Please, help me get some food for my baby." Something stirred within Michael, a long dormant compassion awakened by the raw vulnerability before him. Though his world had been one of power and privilege, he could not ignore the plight of this stranger. With measured calm, he reached into the inner pocket of his expensive coat and withdrew a generous sum of money. "Take this," he said quietly, his voice steady. "Buy food for your child and find somewhere warm to stay." The woman's eyes widened with disbelief and gratitude as she accepted his help. And then, as if carried by a whisper on the wind, she murmured a single word that struck Michael to his core. "Catherine. Thank you, Catherine." That name, the very name of his late wife, echoed in his ears and sent a shiver down his spine. For a brief, suspended moment, the boundaries between past and present blurred, and Michael found himself caught in a tide of unexpected emotion. With a heavy heart and troubled thoughts, he turned away, the mysterious utterance lingering in the recesses of his mind as he resumed his journey to the cemetery. That night, beneath the gloomy sky, Michael's routine visit transformed into something far more poignant, a portent of secrets from the past that were poised to reshape his future. The next morning, Michael rose with an uneasy anticipation that he could not shake. Clutching another bouquet of lilies, he made his way to the cemetery, as he had done countless times before. The overcast sky and the damp chill in the air seemed to mirror the turmoil inside him. As he approached Catherine's grave, he was startled to see a familiar figure already there. In the soft morning light, a woman knelt by the modest tombstone, her head bowed in quiet reverence. It was the same woman he had encountered the previous night on the rain-soaked street, a woman whose desperate plea had stirred his compassion. Now, as Michael drew near, he heard her in a hushed, trembling tone. "Thank you, Catherine. You saved my life." For a long, suspended moment, Michael stood motionless. The woman's words, imbued with both sorrow and gratitude, resonated deeply within him. How could this stranger, who appeared to be in such dire straits, have any connection to his late wife? The name Catherine was sacred to him, a name that evoked the gentle kindness and selflessness of the woman he had once loved. Michael's mind raced with questions as he carefully approached the grieving figure, the woman who, despite her ragged appearance, exuded an air of quiet dignity, lifted her tear-filled eyes to meet his. There was a flicker of recognition in her gaze, as though she sensed that their fates were inexplicably intertwined. "Please forgive my intrusion," she whispered, her voice fragile yet earnest. "I only came here to offer my thanks." Michael's heart pounded in his chest as he searched her face for clues, for any sign that might explain the unanticipated connection. In that moment, the usual serenity of his weekly visits was shattered by an overwhelming mixture of confusion and sorrow. The gentle murmur of the wind through the gravestones and the soft rustle of leaves provided a mournful soundtrack to the silent exchange. Michael could not help but wonder if this was a final, bittersweet message from Catherine, a secret she had carried with her beyond the grave. Unable to find the words, Michael simply nodded in acknowledgement and, with a heavy heart, retreated from the scene. Yet the image of the woman's earnest expression, combined with the mysterious invocation of his wife's name, haunted him relentlessly throughout the day. At work and in quiet moments alone, his thoughts circled back to that inexplicable encounter. Determined to unravel the mystery, Michael resolved to search for answers within the remnants of his wife's past, within the letters, photographs, and treasured mementos she had left behind. The encounter at the grave had stirred something dormant inside him, a sense that Catherine's legacy might have been far more complex and far-reaching than he had ever imagined. And so, with a heart filled with both trepidation and hope, Michael began to piece together the fragments of a story that promised to bridge the gap between memory and destiny. Haunted by the inexplicable encounter at the cemetery, Michael returned to his opulent home, a mansion filled with reminders of a life he once shared with Catherine. In the quiet solitude of his private study, he resolved to search for any clues that might explain the mysterious connection. Days turned into nights as he meticulously sifted through old trunks, dusty photo albums, and stacks of letters that Catherine had once cherished. It was in one of these forgotten chests that he discovered a trove of memories. Yellowed letters penned in elegant handwriting, faded photographs capturing moments of warmth and kindness, and small personal mementos that spoke of a compassionate soul. One particular letter, dated several years before Catherine's untimely death, caught Michael's attention. In it, Catherine recounted an experience from her days as a volunteer at a local shelter. She wrote of a desperate young woman, one who had lost everything, had no home, and was forced to beg on the streets. According to the letter, Catherine had encountered this woman on a cold winter's night, and moved by the raw pain in her eyes, had offered her not only a warm meal, but also a measure of hope. The letter described how the woman had clutched her baby tightly as Catherine wrapped them both in a worn blanket, promising that even in the darkest of times, a kind gesture could light the way to a better future. As Michael read the letter over and over, his heart ached with a blend of sorrow and admiration. The revelation that Catherine had once extended her kindness to someone in such dire circumstances painted a new, poignant picture of the woman he thought he knew so well. Her compassion, it seemed, had been boundless, a quiet force that reached out to touch the lives of those most in need. Michael's mind raced as he began to connect the dots. The same mysterious woman he had seen at his wife's grave, who had murmured Catherine's name with trembling gratitude, could very well be the person described in the letter. Determined to confirm his suspicions, Michael carefully examined every detail in the letter, the style of the handwriting, the specific phrases that Catherine used to describe her experience, and even the subtle hints at an ongoing relationship between her and the young woman. Slowly, the pieces began to form a coherent picture, It appeared that Catherine had not only been a loving wife, but also a guardian to the vulnerable, a quiet benefactor whose acts of kindness had left an indelible mark on the lives of those she helped. The thought that the legacy of his late wife might live on in the form of a grateful, struggling woman filled Michael with both hope and trepidation. He realized that this revelation was more than a mere curiosity. It was a call to honor Catherine's memory by understanding the full extent of her compassion. With renewed resolve, Michael decided that he must meet this mysterious woman face to face to learn her story, and perhaps to find a way to continue the legacy of kindness that his wife had embodied so beautifully. After days of restless pondering and a growing compulsion to seek the truth, Michael arranged a discreet meeting with the mysterious woman. He learned that her name was Rebecca Miller, a name that, despite its plainness, carried the weight of untold hardships. They agreed to meet at a small, modest cafe in a quieter part of town, far removed from the glittering opulence of Michael's world. When Michael arrived, he found Rebecca sitting alone at a corner table. She appeared weary yet dignified, her eyes reflecting both sorrow and resilience. With the baby wrapped securely in a thin, worn blanket beside her, Rebecca greeted Michael with a cautious nod as he introduced himself. The conversation began tentatively. Michael gently explained that he had seen her at the cemetery, and that her words had stirred memories of his beloved Catherine. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears as she listened. In a soft, wavering voice, she began to recount her story, a story that had been hidden away for many years. Rebecca revealed that, when she was a young, homeless woman with nowhere to turn, fate had intervened in the form of a kind stranger. That stranger was none other than Catherine. According to Rebecca, Catherine had been working as a volunteer at a local shelter during a bitterly cold winter. On a night when Rebecca had been on the verge of losing hope, Catherine had appeared, offering her warmth, food, and a sense of dignity. Rebecca recalled how Catherine had taken her by the hand, led her to a safe haven, and cared for her with a compassion that transcended mere charity. "She gave me hope," Rebecca said, her voice thick with emotion. "She told me that even in the darkness, a single act of kindness could light a way forward. I never forgot that promise." As Rebecca spoke, Michael felt an overwhelming mix of emotions. The revelation of Catherine's secret acts of kindness painted a new portrait of the woman he had once loved, a woman whose legacy was not confined to private sorrow, but extended into the lives of those she had selflessly helped. Michael listened intently, his heart softening with every word. He asked Rebecca about the long years that followed, how she had managed to survive on the fringes of society, and what had become of the promise that Catherine had made to her. Rebecca explained that while she had struggled mightily in the years after that fateful night, the memory of Catherine's compassion had remained a guiding light, giving her the strength to endure the harsh realities of life. Despite numerous setbacks, she had persevered, always clinging to the hope that one day someone would recognize the value of that kindness. The conversation stretched on, each revelation drawing Michael deeper into the legacy of his late wife. In that small cafe, far removed from the grandeur of his former life, Michael began to understand that Catherine's true wealth was not measured in dollars or possessions, but in the lives she had touched. Rebecca's story was both heartbreaking and inspiring, a testament to the enduring power of compassion and the possibility of redemption. As they parted that day, Michael's mind was filled with a newfound determination. He would honor Catherine's memory by ensuring that her spirit of generosity continued to live on. He vowed to help Rebecca and her child, not only as a means of repaying a debt he now felt he owed to his late wife, but also to affirm that even in the darkest corners of the world, light could still be found. In the weeks that followed, Michael's decision to help Rebecca and her child began to reshape his life in unexpected ways. Determined to honor the legacy of Catherine's boundless compassion, he took tangible steps to improve their circumstances. Using part of his considerable fortune, Michael arranged for safe, comfortable housing for Rebecca and ensured that her child received proper medical care and nutritional support. He personally oversaw the process, visiting the modest apartment where they would now reside and making sure that every need was met. The transformation was remarkable. Rebecca, once a figure of desolation on a rain-soaked street, now found herself in a space filled with warmth and dignity, a stark contrast to the hardships she had known. Michael's involvement did not stop at providing immediate relief. Deeply moved by the story he had uncovered, he began to reflect on the true meaning of wealth and success. The more he delved into the details of Catherine's secret acts of kindness, her letters, photographs, and mementos, the more he realized that her legacy was not merely about personal sorrow, but about the lives she had changed. He decided that he could not let her memory fade into obscurity. Inspired by her example, Michael established a charitable foundation in her name, dedicated to supporting the underprivileged, funding shelter programs, and offering educational opportunities to those in desperate need. Through the foundation, he aimed to create a lasting tribute to Catherine, a way to perpetuate the kindness that had once saved a lost soul. At first, the transition was fraught with challenges. Michael, accustomed to making decisions in boardrooms and financial meetings, now had to navigate the intricacies of social work and community outreach. Yet with every obstacle he overcame, he felt a growing sense of purpose. The work was both demanding and deeply fulfilling, and slowly, the emptiness that had haunted him for years began to give way to a tentative hope. Meetings with social workers, visits to community centers, and countless conversations with beneficiaries of the Foundation's programs opened Michael's eyes to a world that had long been hidden from him. He discovered that true wealth was measured not by bank balances, but by the smiles of those whose lives were touched by genuine compassion. Rebecca's transformation also became a source of inspiration. With Michael's support, she enrolled in vocational courses and began to rebuild her life, her resilience and determination shining through even in the face of lingering hardships. The young child, once swaddled in a threadbare blanket on a rainy street, now thrived in an environment filled with care and opportunity. Every small success, whether it was a new job, a doctor's smile of approval, or a heartfelt thank you from a beneficiary, served as a powerful reminder of Catherine's enduring influence. Through it all, Michael found that his own heart was slowly healing. The act of helping others, of channeling his grief into something positive, provided him with a renewed sense of purpose. In the quiet moments of the night, as he sat alone in his study, surrounded by the tangible legacy of Catherine's life, he realized that the pain of loss had not vanished, but had transformed into a driving force for change. Catherine's memory, preserved in every act of kindness he initiated, now shone as a beacon of hope for countless souls. It was a bittersweet journey, one marked by the unending ache of a love lost and the profound joy of new beginnings. Michael Adams had discovered that even in the wake of tragedy, life could be rebuilt, brick by brick, act by compassionate act. Months turned into a year, and Michael Adams' life had undergone a transformation he could scarcely have imagined. The charitable foundation established in honor of his late wife, Catherine, had blossomed into a vibrant network of support, reaching out to the most vulnerable communities across the city. Michael's once lonely existence was now filled with meetings, heartfelt testimonials, and tangible evidence that his wife's legacy of kindness continued to ripple outward. changing lives one person at a time. Rebecca Miller, the woman whose desperate plea on a rainy night had ignited this entire journey, now lived in a modest but comfortable home, and her child thrived under the care and support provided by the foundation. Every smile on Rebecca's face, every word of gratitude from those helped, reminded Michael that true wealth was not confined to material possessions, but was measured by the goodness one spread in the world. One crisp autumn day, Michael decided to visit the cemetery once more. Clutching a fresh bouquet of white lilies, he walked the familiar path to Catherine's grave. The air was cool, and the rustling of leaves created a gentle symphony of remembrance. As he approached the tombstone, he paused, taking in the serene beauty of the place where his wife rested. For a long while, he simply stood there, lost in the memories of a love that had defined his life. But then, to his astonishment, he noticed a small, weathered bench beneath an old oak tree. Seated there was Rebecca, cradling her sleeping child and gazing tenderly at the grave. The sight struck Michael with a profound mixture of sorrow and solace. He realized that in her own quiet way, Rebecca had become a living testament to Catherine's spirit, a spirit that transcended death and continued to nurture hope. Michael approached her slowly, his voice soft and measured. "Rebecca," he said, "I never imagined that I would see you here again." Rebecca looked up, tears glistening in her eyes, and whispered, "I come here to thank her every day. Catherine saved me when I had nowhere else to turn. I am forever grateful." In that moment, Michael felt the weight of his own loss soften, replaced by the warmth of a legacy that lived on in unexpected ways. The connection between him, Catherine, and Rebecca was undeniable. A tapestry woven with threads of compassion, sacrifice, and redemption. Determined to honor both his wife's memory and the new hope that had emerged from her legacy, Michael resolved to continue expanding the foundation's reach. He organized community events, partnered with local organizations, and even started scholarship programs to help young people overcome the same obstacles that once haunted him. In every initiative, he saw the echo of Catherine's gentle guidance. The transformation in his own life, from a solitary, grieving millionaire to a compassionate benefactor, became an inspiration to many. In the quiet moments of reflection, Michael would often revisit the cemetery, not as a place of mourning, but as a sanctuary where love and kindness transcended the boundaries of time. On one such visit, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast long shadows over the gravestones, Michael knelt before Catherine's grave, placing a single white lily on the stone. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you, my love. Your light continues to guide me, and through our shared legacy, I promise to keep that light burning for all who need it." In that serene moment, Michael Adams understood that his journey was far from over. The legacy of Catherine was not merely a memory of loss, but a living, breathing force that had transformed not only his life, but the lives of countless others. And so, with renewed determination and a heart full of hope, he stepped forward into a future defined by compassion. A future where even the smallest act of kindness could change the world.